So the other document that I want to share with you is the one that's called Progression. The progression document looks very similar. Again, it's got the revision date of 2016 on. This is a suggested progression. You don't have to follow this exactly. As I said before, the progression is suitable for children working age-related or above. Children working below age-related need to move faster while still retaining what they've learnt in order to narrow the gap. What you'll see is that if you remember, phase 2 was split into 10 weeks of learning and 2 weeks of revision. So here they are, 10 weeks of learning, 2 weeks of revision. And then here is my suggestions of what you need to cover each week. So in week 1, if I'm teaching phase 2, I'm going to teach that first letter group. I might not teach all of those different letters, but I'm working in that first letter group, and I'm going to teach the key skill of blending, and I'm going to make sure I'm covering these words. Like I said, we need to make sure these words are included as flashcards, but also in sentences. Phase 2, week 2, I'm going to do the same thing. Week 4, I'm going to do the same letter group, but in segmenting. So when they're blending, they're reading. When they're segmenting, they're writing. You don't need to do blending and segmenting in the same lesson. You just need to make sure that children are learning to read and to spell with a phonics program. Then I would do 3 weeks of the next letter group with 2 weeks of blending and 1 week of segmenting, and I'm starting to introduce some new words. You can see the same thing there, and I'm introducing some new words. And then I've got 2 weeks of revision, so I know then what the children can and they can't do out of these, which ones have been tricky, which skills have been tricky. So you do your 2 weeks of revision based on what they need, continuing to revise these words. And you'll see that goes through with a suggestion. This is not compulsory. This matches the program, but if you need to do something differently, if you want to do something differently, if you've taught it in a slightly different way before, so long as you're covering the program, this is just a suggestion. I would say in phase 5.1, I would do a family generally. If it's got a few sounds, I would do it over 2 weeks. I would do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'd do the whole lot, and I'd do it with blending. And then in week 2, I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with my segmenting. Friday, I'd do the whole lot, and I'd move on to the new family after that. In my revision, I'm either going to cover the ones that they don't seem to have been able to do, or I'm going to chuck the whole lot at them and make sure they can do it when it's out of the sequence. So it's like, we're not doing the A today, we could be doing any of those ones. Can you do it? Remember, that's if children are working age related. If they're working below age related, you need to try to work faster without missing bits out, and without meaning that they don't learn the things that you're teaching. So you also need these 2 folders here. So in high frequency words, there are all the cards that you need should be here. So house cards. I have saved them as PDFs with a font that's easily readable. It's not letter join because they weren't necessarily all readable with that. So if I show you one, they'll look like this if you print from the PDF. So you just need to print them onto the right colour card. If you did want to change them for whatever reason, you know, you've got an SEN child and it's too many words for them to see in one go or something like that, they are in Word as well, but just be mindful that the font might show as something strange on your computer, and then it might muck up the way the words are displayed on the card. So there's also some large flashcards that look like that. Again, if you put them on the right colour card, it cues the children into the fact that this is a high frequency word. So like I talked about before, the words on the roof are the words that the children can't read with the level of phonics that they have got at that point in time. Of course, almost all words in English are phonically decodable if you've got enough phonics knowledge, but at the beginning of learning phonics, the children do not have the phonics to read those words using their phonic knowledge. They need to learn those as sight words. The words on the walls, they do have the phonic knowledge to read. So within that first week of teaching, they're taught, or certainly by the second week, they're taught all the letters that are in these words, and they're taught the skill of blending, so they can apply their phonics to be able to read these words. These words should not be taught as sight words. These words should be taught as words that you can sound out and blend. K, at, cat. If you do that enough times, you'll become automatic with it. Now, it's really important, therefore, that the cards link with the right stage of the phonics program. So I want to share something else with you. So this document here, the index version, shows you which card goes with what part of the program. So the cards go through, the colours down the side link with the part of the phonics programme. So when you're looking at the phonics programme, you could see all the different colours. Starts with red in phase 2 in reception, yellow phase 3 in reception, pink phase 4 in reception, green is in year 1, it goes through. If ever you want to know the order of the colours, it goes in the order of the rainbow song. So it goes red, red and yellow and pink and green, orange and purple and blue. So that's the order they go in. The word cards count from number 1 all the way through to number 43. Those numbers are on the doors. The colour card that you print them on needs to match with where they are in the programme, and if you print them as flashcards, they need to be the same colour as well. So obviously otherwise we're queuing children in with colour, and then if we don't use the right colour, it's not going to help. And then just to make the cards a little bit more visually interesting from the children's point of view, each first card of a new colour starts with a ladybird, a small animal, and the animals get bigger throughout the cards. So depending on how many cards there are in that phase, the animals might be quite big by the end, or they might still be quite small. So if you have a look down into some of the year 1 words, you'll find that some of the words from the year 2 spelling list appear on the roofs. So words like this, break, steak, great, today, said, says. They're words that at this stage of learning phonics in the A family, these are A spelling patterns, or says is a bit different. These are A spelling patterns that don't match with ones they've been taught already, whereas the words on the roof are A words that do match with the ones they've been taught. But what you'll find is that all the words on the year 2 spelling list do appear somewhere else, but on a wall. Here they are. Great, break, steak. They are off the year 2 spelling list, so they also appear as wall words at year 2 age related, but because obviously some children won't get to year 2 age related, they appear earlier too, to give children the maximum possible chance of learning those. So the words on the roof, they can't use their phonics to read it at that stage, but you can make the links clear with their phonics. So if they're looking at the word go and they don't know what it says, you could say, remember which word, what's it got at the beginning? It's got a g. Which of the words that we've been learning this week has got a g? Oh yeah, it's go. If they're not sure, you could tell them that's O. So it's got a g at the beginning, this is O. What does it say? It says go. Likewise with went, you could help them. Can you hear it if I say it? Yeah, that's right, it's went. Whereas these ones on the walls are ones that they can read at that stage of phonics. If you have a look at these ones, you can see they're made out of those letters. These ones are made out of those letters, first 2 groups. These ones are made out of letters from the first 3 groups. These ones they need to read so many times using phonics that they can read them automatically as soon as they see them. For some children that's going to be a couple of times, for some children that's hundreds of times. So they need to be as flashcards, they need to be on your walls, they need to be words that you are expecting them to be able to read, so that actually once they know them, they don't read them with phonics. If they know that says cat, I don't want them to say cat, they need to say cat, and they need to do that in their reading book. And to encourage that, you need to make sure that in your application sessions they've got the opportunity to encounter these words and these words. So you can see how they link. So here, when you're teaching this bit of phonics, they should be on card 6 because the words on the walls match. The children shouldn't be racing through the cards. Just because they can read the words on card 3 doesn't mean they should be given the card 4, because if you're still teaching this set and you give them this set, then it doesn't, the wall roof distinction doesn't make sense. So the children don't race through the cards at the rate that they can in the way that they might have done with kind of old cards, because these cards don't work in that way. They need to get given the new card when you move on to the new learning. So when you move on to this learning, you need to give everybody in your group that card. They might not be able to read all the words in the previous cards, but they still need to have this card. And then the class teacher needs to be keeping a track when they do their assessments as to whether or not the children are making adequate progress in their high frequency word reading, and if not, that's something where you need to then put something in place for that child, and maybe involving the parents about how you're going to do that. So then the last thing that I want to show you, still in that same folder, Phonics Curriculum Resources Whole School Programme, these are things that you really need to be using. There are the assessment sheets. Now, if you have a child come through to you from earlier in the school, you should get the whole assessment booklet, and you should just be carrying on from whatever phase they last didn't pass. Yeah, they're all saved as PDF because that way the font will display properly. So if you've got old versions where the font doesn't display, you might want to get yourself new versions. I'm going to do a separate video about phonics assessments to show you what those look like and how to use those. For the time being, it's worth knowing they're there. So that's everything that you really need to know. The phase 1 letters and sounds is here if you need that. There's some other things in here that might help you, and I'm going to do another video that's more about training and how to teach phonics, but just a few things that might help you. So different types of resources that people have got. There are in this folder some planning examples, so you can see some examples of planning that I've done and some that other people have done. This document is key, structure of a phonics session. This is expected that this is how you will teach phonics, that the timings are approximate, but it's to give you an idea of the weighting of the different sections of your lesson. So we teach with a review, teach phoneme, grapheme, correspondence if that's relevant to your phase, and some of the later phases, and in phase 4 that's not what you're doing, or you might put it in if you want to revise something as well, but you're not necessarily doing that. So you've got a review of things they should already know, no new teaching. Teaching or revisiting a phoneme, grapheme, correspondence that is going to be applicable in the lesson that you're teaching. Teaching a new skill or concept, which is usually going to be blending or segmenting using this new phoneme, grapheme, correspondence. Occasionally it's something else. Practicing this new skill with teacher support or TA support, with adult support. So it's this, whatever you've done there, you've combined this with a skill here and you've taught them how to do it. Now they're going to practice the same thing, still with this phoneme, grapheme, correspondence. Then they're going to have a go at applying independently. So you can think of this as my turn, our turn, your turn, and they're building up their independence throughout. So here you're doing it, you're showing them how to do it. Here they're having a go and you're joining in and you're scaffolding them and you're reminding them what to do. And here they're having a go independently. And it's important that when they have a go independently, they might have a go at just reading individual words independently, but it's also really important they see phonics in the context of a sentence or longer piece of text. They understand that phonics isn't what I do in a phonics lesson. Phonics is what I do when I'm reading, or phonics is what I'm doing when I'm writing. So it needs to be not just single words. A bit of an idea about how long you should spend in each session. So if you add those up, 3, 6, 9, 15, 20-minute phonics session, you shouldn't need to spend longer than 20 minutes teaching it. But what you don't want to do is spend 10 minutes here. We need this waiting down here where the children are doing it themselves. Anything else I've given out in staff meetings or anything like that is going to be in here. So again, there's some example plans. There's, if you're not sure about technical vocabulary, there's a document that just reminds you about what that technical vocabulary is. I just want to draw people's attention to a couple of things. First of all, phoneme, that's easy, that's a sound. I think everyone's okay with that. A grapheme doesn't necessarily mean a letter. So sometimes people see grapheme as a letter. So for instance, in sh, there are 2 letters, S and H. That's not 2 graphemes, that's 1 grapheme. A grapheme is what you write down when you hear a phoneme. So if you hear the phoneme sh, you write down 1 grapheme to represent it. That grapheme happens to be made of 2 letters. I also want to bring your attention to the fact it's digraph, it's not diagraph, it's not like a diagram. Di means 2, so it's 2 letters, digraph, trigraph, 3 letters. I want to bring your attention to the fact that when we're blending, we are taking distinct letters and running them together to make a word. So k, at, cat is blending. Segmenting is the process of the reverse of that, being able to hear the sounds in a word. So if I say to you harp, you can hear r, p. It is not the process of saying the sounds or sounding out. That is not segmenting, that is something else. So if I want to read the word, let's choose word. If I want to read the word word, I need to look at it and go, okay, I know that's w, okay, I know that's or, I know that's d. That is not segmenting the word. Segmenting is a skill that links with spelling. What I just did there was saying the sounds or sounding it out if you prefer, not the same as segmenting.